Kentucky Spin. Our four core values: respect, education, dignity, empowerment. Established 1988, Kentucky Spin is a parent training and information center in Kentucky. Hi, I'm Nick from Kentucky Spin. Here's another youth talk. For this one, I'm going to talk about social planning skills and kind of go over some things to keep in mind, some tips, and some strategies for planning those social activities with your friends and family. So the first thing is, you need to pick an activity. That could be, whether that be going to the movies, roller skating, maybe going to an amusement park or the zoo. You got to figure out what it is you even want to do with your friends or family. You got to pick the activity. And once you have that settled and you know all that, you can move on to the next thing. You gotta figure out the details. Figure out what times work best for everyone. Make sure the schedules line up. Make sure you're free on that day. Make sure your friend's free on that day or your family. You gotta figure out the time, the dates that everyone's free. Organize those dates and figure out how much is that activity going to cost, right? If you're going to go to the zoo, like how much is it going to cost to drive to the zoo? How much money is gas going to be for your car, for your transportation? Even if you're not driving, if a friend's driving, you still want to keep in mind gas cost. How much is it going to cost to get into the zoo? Zoo, you got to buy tickets. You got to think if you're going to something like the zoo, or if you're even going to the bowling alley. It costs money to get into the bowling alley, get into the zoo, wherever it is. You're going to want to eat. You're probably going to be there every day, especially if you go to the zoo. Like, if you go to the zoo, you got to be there for a few hours. You're going to want to get food either on the way or on the way back. You're probably going to want to get food while you're there. Same thing if you go to like the bowling alley or if you go roller skating. You're probably going to get hungry while you're there, or if not while you're there, you're going to want to get food after the fact when you leave and you go home or whatever. You're probably going to eat. So that's a cost you have to keep in mind. So you want to think about like how much transportation is going to cost, how much it's going to cost for the activity to actually do the activity for tickets or entry or whatever it may be, and then food costs, as well as just have a little bit of money in case you want to buy something. If you go to the zoo, you might want to get like a stuffed zebra or maybe get one of those fancy souvenir cups. So keep those in mind. Transportation, food, souvenirs, and entry costs. When it comes to inviting people, you want to text, call the people that you want to invite, your friends, family, whoever. Invite them. Let them know, organize that date, figure out what day you're going to wherever it is you're going. And then once you have that planned out and okay, well, Saturday, we're going to go to the zoo. Me and my best friend, we're going to go to the zoo this Saturday. Once you have that figured out, tell someone else. Just because you and your friend know what you're doing, you want to let someone else know in case there's like an emergency or if something happens. You want to let someone else know that you're going somewhere. This is extremely important when it comes to going on any kind of trip, even if it's just a day trip. If you're just going to go somewhere, if you're going to leave the house and go out of the city, or even if you're just going down the street, it's a good idea just to tell someone. So that way, if something happens, they know where you are. If you leave the house and then let's say you live in your apartment and you leave and you go somewhere and your roommate shows up and your roommate doesn't know where you are, it's good for them to know if they come in and they're like, well, I know that Nick is going bowling today, so he's probably at the bowling alley, and they don't have to worry that maybe I'm not at the bowling alley, maybe I'm just missing or something like that. So it helps avoid that kind of hassle and that panic of they might be missing, because that's genuinely a concern that someone will have, especially if you have a disability and you have that type of relationship with your family or friends. If you just go missing and you don't tell anyone what you're doing, they might panic depending on what your situation is and what type of disability you might have. So it's really important to let people know what you're doing and the day that you're doing it on so that they know. And then there's planning transport. So like I mentioned paying for gas and like that. Know how you're going to get there. Know who's driving, even if you're not driving yourself. Know who's driving. Figure out how everyone's going to get there. It can just be simple to like carpool. It's usually the best option is usually carpooling if you have more than one person going besides yourself. Is carpooling is a really good option. You cut down on costs and gas and things like that. Y'all can just easily split the gas bill amongst yourselves. Not everyone has to pay for their own gas to get there. Just make sure everyone gets there safely and make sure everyone gets back safely. Lastly, when it comes to your social activities, of course, you want to have fun. Be ready to have fun. Plan out what you're going to do so you can maximize that fun. Like if you're going to the zoo, you can maybe look if you're going to the zoo, look up like a zoo map ahead of time so you can coordinate with your friends and be like, hey, I really like the penguins, and the penguins are near the exit of the zoo, for example. Like we can go see the penguins last, or plan that out so you know where you want to go, and maybe keep in mind some conversation starters. Like if you have bad social anxiety, even though you're your friends, maybe you're really bad at starting conversations. So come up with some ideas for conversations based on where you're going and based on where you're going to be at, so you can talk with your friends and have good conversations. And also as part of that, make sure you have a backup plan just in case something falls through. Because sometimes you want to do something and then it falls apart at the last minute and this kind of stinks, and you're really looking forward to it. So have some kind of backup plan, and that can just be something as simple as, well, we wanted to go to the zoo, so and so couldn't make it, so maybe we can reschedule that for another time, and me and my friend who were still available, maybe we can go watch a movie instead. We can go down the road to the theater, we can go see a movie, or we can just hang out and play like video games, or just, for me, when I hang out, I like just to sit around and just talk to people. I just like having conversation. But it's just good to have a backup plan. Just keep in mind things you can do instead in case those plans do fall through, because sometimes they do. Life happens, things come up, cars break down, etc. So it's good just to have a fallback just in case, because it stinks to go through all that trouble, all that time of planning out a trip or planning out a day adventure, and then for it to have it fall apart at the last second and feel like, well, what am I going to do now? So just plan that stuff out. Everything I just talked about in this youth talk, there's actually an infographic on KentuckySpins.com that you can print off. I actually have a physical version right here. It's called My Social Planning Skills. It lists everything that I just talked about in this youth talk. So if you just want to have your own physical reference for you, just to look at, if you don't want to have to listen to this 8 or 9 minute long video every time you want to do a social planning thing, you can just go on our website and download or print off this infographic, and it has literally everything I just spoke about, but in a much easier, readable version. So, but otherwise, that's it for this youth talk. Again, I'm Nick Carpenter with Kentucky Spin, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Thank you. Visit www.kyspin.com.